Chapter 4. How Feelings Impact Our Lives. I'm not important. This was the feeling that governed my beliefs and controlled my life. This cloud of negative feelings, I'm not important, so I'm not worthy, created a hole that I could not find a way to fill. My existence was very frustrated, but I didn't know why. This belief of mine that I'm not important was established because of the feelings I experienced at my birth. Then I traveled through most of life setting up situations, subconsciously of course, to prove that I was not important. If the feelings that we pick up during gestation or experience at birth cause us to feel rejected, we will go through life setting up situations which cause us more feelings of rejection. Thus, we have a further validation of our erroneous belief, the belief that we are supposed to be rejected. Because, you see, our mind, our ego, has to be right. Then our mind assists us in carrying out our beliefs. Even though a significant number of our feelings originate during gestation or at birth, not all of them do. But if we, our mind, have established the belief subconsciously that we are to be rejected, then the mind has to prove itself right and prove that it is justified in that belief. So the mind then directs and creates situations whereby it can fulfill the belief of rejection or whatever is established. Consequently, most of us go through life continually driven to prove our beliefs, which then become our self-fulfilling prophecies, setting up situations that create a validation of those beliefs, so that we can prove that we are right. If we don't experience validation of those beliefs, then we don't feel comfortable. Having that validation makes our mind right, and our mind always has to be right, subconsciously, no matter what. This means that most of us go through life with incorrect perceptions and beliefs about ourselves. For some reason, when we feel that we are validated in being right and justified, we think subconsciously that we're in the place of comfort and peace. From the discussion in Chapter 2, that place which first provided us with warmth and security, where we yearn to return. Being validated also gives us a quasi-feeling of being in control. And remember, we all want to be in control. This state of being, finding and enjoying our place of comfort and peace, is generally only momentary and very short-lived, because it's based on an illusion or an untruth, an incorrect perception. So many of us are continually frustrated subconsciously due to the inner conflict of not really enjoying the state we've placed ourselves in, the state which we have unknowingly orchestrated. When we proved our belief was right, we're also frustrated because of our inability to hang on to that feeling of being in control or of being in our place of comfort and peace, which in reality is not a place of comfort and peace at all. Talk about a war going on inside. All of us want so much to feel the same quality of comfort and peace. We knew before we were born that we're often ill at ease or frustrated subconsciously by our inability to find it. No matter how diligently we strive to find and experience that peace and comfort, we manage to create disorder or dysfunction in our lives by having to be right about something which we perceive incorrectly. Our erroneous beliefs that were embraced at birth, and so this becomes a lose-lose situation for us more often than we think. For some of us, it seems the more we strive the more our achievement of comfort and peace eludes us, and the reason is that we are functioning, here again, from an incorrect perception and belief. Our continual attempt to arrive and take up residence at the place of comfort and peace creates inconsistencies in our life's experiences with no rhyme or reason, and for some of us, the more we strive, the more chaos we experience. Others of us never seem to achieve the results on an ongoing basis, and we're seeking in various areas of our lives. Therefore, we may experience more and more frustration, which could eventually lead to our giving up. When we reach this point, we may presume that we have no control over our lives. Complete helplessness or hopelessness could be the feeling we experience, which in turn can lead to the feeling of, oh, what's the use? And then we throw in the towel and fold up. An example of this happened with a client whom I'll call Sarah. Sarah just recently divorced for the second time. She's extremely desirous of having a loving, caring, companionable man in her life. Sarah's very attractive and fun to be around. It's not a challenge for her to attract men to her. Her challenge comes in having them show appreciation for her and take her seriously. She finds herself being the aggressor, which she doesn't want to be, and Sarah has a real need for approval. But she doesn't seem to be receiving the approval she needs so desperately. She worries and frets beyond reason, to the point of almost giving up. However, Sarah has now come to realize that when she approves of herself, she will then be able to attract that quality in others, whom she would like to associate. After using the tool to process her feelings involved with this predicament, her situation improved greatly and she started feeling better about herself. As I write this, Sarah is on a journey of healing using the tool I will share with you later in this book. The improvements she has experienced in her life from using this tool are becoming apparent. Each day she gains more confidence in her ability to deal with her own feelings. With consistent use of this tool, Sarah will be able to significantly change the feelings and beliefs that cause her any discomfort in this area of her life. Let's look at some of the characteristic qualities we, as human beings, create in our lives as we're striving to return to our place of comfort and peace. Have you ever known anyone who seems to purposely, subconsciously of course, and continually experience chaos in their relationships with other people? They are unable to keep friends for long periods of time, constantly looking for new friends that will accept them, relate to them, identify with them, and be loyal to them. Perhaps you've known someone who's always manipulating or trying to control others. The ones who try to control, characteristically, need to be right. If they are right, then they feel they are in control. They won't let down their veneer or facade for fear of letting someone see that they might not have it all together. If you ask them how things are going, they will always tell you everything is great. But in reality they may be hurting deeply or feeling very inadequate or insecure because of some of their unresolved feelings. They never want you to see or perceive them as lacking in any area of their life. That would be too much for them. People who feel inferior are often the ones who allow others to control them. Use them for a doormat, time after time. Their motto is, keep peace at all costs, and it usually costs them their inner peace or their peace of mind. Then there are other people who seem to take advantage of family, friends, and associates. They use everyone to their advantage with little regard for anyone else's welfare. They are forever insensitive as to what is going on outside of themselves. Have you ever known a person who always has to have things done their way? Sometimes they could be considered perfectionists, and sometimes they may not. This is someone who never allows anyone else to be in charge, whether it has to do with something around the house, around the office, at a party, or on an outing. And when they insist on doing everything their way, not letting anyone else help, they often act like martyrs, seeming to want to make everyone feel guilty because of all the work that they are doing. When the event is over and they are exhausted, they characteristically gasp, moan, and sigh, "I'm all right. Don't pay any attention to me." Then there are the rescuers and the pleasers. These are those people who feel they must make everything right or solve everyone's problems. So they keep their antenna poised, always looking for people to help. They seemingly feel responsible for each person's ills and want to have the solutions for everyone else, but are usually unable to see the root of their own problems. Generally, the rescuer or pleaser is suffering from deep-seated feelings of rejection, which they don't realize. It is this type of person who often has numerous health problems. And some people may be unable to adequately communicate and express their feelings to their loved ones, or anyone else for that matter. Often this type of person, because of an inability to communicate, experiences a total lack of coping skills, and eventually withdraws from society, hibernating in their own little world. Then there are those at the other end of the spectrum who seem to just talk to hear themselves talk, and what they have to say is usually irrelevant or mindless chatter. They want to be included in what's going on around them, but they lack the confidence or social skills to be able to be part of the group. So they always seem to be on the outside looking in, just hoping that what they have to say will be accepted or appreciated and help them be part of the group. Often these people are their own worst enemy. Instead of being included, they repel themselves from others, no matter how much they want acceptance, to be liked and to have friends. Most of us have known people who have one health problem after another, or someone who has a major health problem that has stayed with them most of their life. And there are others who have less significant challenges with their health, but seem to have something the matter with them all the time. These people can be found in the doctor's office every other week, looking unsuccessfully for the answers to their problems. I know one woman who judges how alive she is by how sick she is. That is, how many aches and pains she can count. She then keeps the aches and pains alive and well by talking about them to whomever she converses with. What she doesn't understand is that the more she talks about her aches and pains, the more energy she gives them, and the more she reinforces her illness. This holds true with any kind of problem. Whatever the case may be, whether the illness is serious or insignificant, these people never seem to get to the core of their predicament, no matter how long or how hard they look. Then there are those who have a difficult time getting ahead financially in this life. No matter how conscientious they are, it's a real challenge for them to obtain permanent employment. They may go from job to job without much success at all, or they may have a good job, but never seem to have enough money to cover their financial obligations. They're never able to buy or afford a decent car, and they can rarely buy new clothes. They seem forever deprived. It appears to be their plight in life. Yet other people with a similar set of circumstances make it fine on a comparable income. And what makes the difference? We'll come back to this later. I'm sure you have known someone who seems to have a combination of the above examples working against them much of the time. What's their story? Some people have one sort of tragedy after another. It is their fate in life, or is it something they brought on themselves? applying the law of cause and effect, Chapter 2, we begin to understand the reason for all these kinds of conditions in people's lives. Any or several of the above described characteristics, as well as those that may not have been mentioned, are indicators of being out of harmony with natural laws. Our being is subconsciously seeking to return to that place of comfort and peace spoken of earlier in the chapter. And in order for our being, to get our attention, it's necessary for it to cause us pain or discomfort. If we experience pain or discomfort long enough, we usually start looking for the answers. Answers that will lead us back to comfort and peace. So take a real good look at what's going on inside of you. Identify with any of these characteristics. What are your thoughts? What are your feelings? If the negative conditions in your life are ongoing, and the patterns are repeated over and over again, this is telling you, practically screaming at you, that you're definitely out of harmony with natural laws, God's laws, the laws of the universe. And it's time to wake up. Elevate your consciousness and locate the cause of your effects. One of the more obvious indications that your thinking and feelings are inharmonious or out of sync with natural law is when health problems appear. Illness reminds you of your purpose in life, to return to the original pattern of balance, the memory of perfection. Pain of any kind lets you know that you're out of tune with natural laws. God is trying to communicate to you through your body. Pain is one sure way He gets your attention. It is most unfortunate, however, that very often a person doesn't listen or won't listen to this communication. Consequently, the message does not get through. Barbara Ann Brennan, in her book Hands of Light, put it another way. Illness is the result of imbalance. Imbalance is a result of forgetting who you are. Forgetting who you are creates thoughts and actions that lead to an unhealthy lifestyle and eventually to illness. The illness itself is a signal that you are imbalanced because you have forgotten who you are. Illness can thus be understood as a lesson you have given yourself to help you remember who you are. Still another author, Dr. David Frawley, OMD, who penned Ayurvedic Healing, tells us that disease is at the least a spiritual opportunity, if not a sign of spiritual crisis or change, and according to the main spiritual teaching of ancient India, disease is a vehicle whereby the truth of life and the truth of one's own self can be revealed. Could disease be a sign of wrong action in life? Could it also be an indication that the soul is directing its energy within? Either way, disease requires a spiritual re-examination of our lives, particularly if the disease is severe. Hence, in order to understand and resolve any disease, self-examination is the first step and fundamental basis in accomplishing this. Dr. Bernie Siegel, in his wonderful breakthrough book, Love, Medicine, and Miracles, says, I suggest that patients think of illness not as God's will, but as our deviation from God's will. Dr. Siegel goes on to tell us, I feel that all disease is ultimately related to a lack of love, or to love that is only conditional, for the exhaustion and depression of the immune system, thus created, leads to physical vulnerability. I also feel that all healing is related to the ability to give and accept unconditional love. I'm convinced that unconditional love is the most powerful known stimulant of the immune system. If I told patients to raise their blood levels of immune globulins or killer T cells, no one would know how. But if I can teach them to love themselves and others fully, the same changes will happen automatically, and the truth is, love heals. The most important law of the universe is love. Love of self and love of others. We cannot wait to be loved before we love. We just need to love. I heard Dr. Gerald Jampolsky speak at a meeting, and his words were to this effect: whatever the problem, love is the answer. Whatever the fear, love is the answer. Love is all there is, and whatever the question is, love is the answer. If we truly love, that love will cast out all fear. The King James Version of the Bible tells us, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear, because fear hath torment. He that feareth is not made perfect in love. 1 John 4:18. How many and what are the conditions, situation, people, and experiences you fear? Think about it. How does love cast out fear? Real love is unconditional, and real love accepts the perfection of all. It accepts that everything is perfect, just the way it is, and everyone is perfect, just the way they are. There's no need to find fault, because if we accept everything and everyone just the way they are, there's no reason to find fault or judge. When we are able to accept the perfection in everything and everyone, the ego doesn't get bogged down with its fears. Fear of not being equal, fear of being rejected, fear of not being good enough, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of the future, fear of being unworthy, or whatever the fears may be. Unconditional love accepts the perfection of all people and all situations, just the way they are. This statement can be confusing, because most people want to be better. Too often we look at our incorrectly perceived problems and our incorrect perception of others' faults, and we think they are not perfect, that the perfection is to change, that we can't be perfect until we are changed, or someone else is changed. The problem is, too many of us are so emotionally involved in trying to get others to change that we fail to realize that the only person that we can really change is numero uno, number one, ourself. Someone said to me the other day, we're always trying to get the tree out of the other person's eye. What a graphic way to refer to the mote and the beam in the eye. In her book, Minding the Body, Mending the Mind, Dr. Joan Borysenko invites us to see people for who they are instead of who you want them to be. Then accepts them as they are rather than judging them for who they are not. The more accepting you become of yourself, the more you can see others in that same light. The core of every human being is the same: unconditioned consciousness, the self. See the self in others. If you are religious or spiritual, you can think in terms of seeing the divine in one another. Honor your own self and honor the self in others. The Eastern greeting, Namaste, is similar in meaning to Hebrew and Hawaiian greetings. It means, the self in me honors and salutes the self in you. Ponder, during your daily activities and interactions, how much energy is used up in defending various positions that make you feel right, or worthy, or okay. And when you begin to realize your own precious, unique self-worth, the need to defend yourself will diminish, and your body will naturally relax. When we're finally able to release the need to be right, and can accept everything and everyone as being perfect, a shift of major proportions takes place in us. In Love, Medicine, and Miracles, Dr. Siegel states you can't change your shortcomings until you accept yourself despite them. I emphasize this because many people, especially those at high risk of cancer, are prone to forgive others and crucify themselves. There's no reason to feel that you or someone else must change before you can be happy. You are the only one that you can change. It's necessary to accept yourself, despite your shortcomings, before you change. You are the only one who can make you happy. When we accept ourselves the way we are, we increase our ability to change. And when we start to change, those around us do likewise. We may still recognize when someone would be happier if they chose to change, but we also understand that it's much easier for us to allow them to change in their own way and at their own speed without our help. And we no longer feel that we're the one who's responsible for making that change in them. When we arrive at this place in our knowledge and understanding, we naturally move forward in life with more ease. We're more open, more receptive, and more able to gain further understanding and knowledge. We are more tolerant and accepting of the experiences that challenge us and teach us those things which are necessary for our learning and for our growth. These growth experiences will no longer be a hard procedure that we have to go through, but rather one of anticipation that we get to go through. The wonderful prospect and attitude of accepting everything and everyone as being perfect is that change is also perfect. What you are going through is perfect. It will cause you to move toward the space where you are to be, gaining the understanding or learning the lessons that are necessary for you to learn in this life. With this frame of mind, your life becomes more fluid, more flowing without you feeling the need to always run things your way. There is a purpose for every challenge and every situation in which we find ourselves. The purpose is for learning and growth, and for getting to know who we really are. We get to choose how we will react, how we will manage, and what we will do with these challenges. The depth and width of the growth we experience will be determined by these choices. Sometimes our choices may not result in growth instantly, at the moment, because we may have made a negative choice. And by that I mean a choice that brings negative results. But even in the negative choice, we still experience consequences that will eventually bring us around to positive choices, or choices that bring positive results. When we are mindfully conscious of what is taking place in our lives and are willing to make a shift from the victim role to the role of master, explained in Chapter 2, our mindfulness will motivate us to make wiser choices on a daily basis. This can eventually lead us to the kind of growth and development that will ultimately bring the comfort and peace to our being for which we have been seeking and longing. The more we avoid or resist what we may consider in our mind to be an undesirable person or an undesirable situation, the more we block the flow of energy that facilitates change. When we are able to view the less than desirable occurrences in our lives as learning experiences, or minor inconveniences on our road towards growth and fulfillment, knowing that it is perfect for the time, these undesirable experiences won't seem nearly as terrible, as awful, or as lengthy while we are moving through them. And how does this work? It all comes back to love. Love is accepting what is. Put another way, unconditional love is understanding, accepting and letting go of any disagreement or issue. Whatever the condition or situation is, let it go. Let it be. Oliver Wendell Holmes once said, "Love is the master key that opens the gates of happiness." And what is the key that opens the gates of love? Forgiveness. Forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others. Forgiveness also opens the gates to peace of mind. When you do not see yourself and the situations in your life as being perfect, there is no energy for anything to change. You stop the flow of energy. We all know women who desperately want a child and cannot conceive. They adopt, and months later they find themselves pregnant. I know a woman who, in her late 30s, finally adopted a baby. Due to a long history of female problems, she was scheduled for a hysterectomy. At her preoperative exam, she found out that she was pregnant. She had given up resisting. She had accepted the perfection of her situation. We all have that power. We give up that power when we do not accept what is. We stop the flow of energy surrounding it. If we want our mate to change, first we must love them the way they are. Then the space for change is created. We need to love our illness because love heals. It allows wellness and wholeness to move in, to take place. Trying to change things without first accepting them as they are is like wearing Chinese handcuffs. The harder you try, the more resistance you create. Relax. Let the energy flow. Accept the perfection. Feel the love. Now you can manifest anything. Discomfort does not last unless we resist it. That which we resist persists. If we stop and think about it, most of us will agree that this is certainly true. When we resist a pain or a situation, sometimes that very thing we want to eliminate or ignore becomes more glaring. As you'll recall, everything has an energy. And when we try to force or manipulate a situation, a problem or energy, to our pleasing, we are forcing or pushing to make it happen. When we do this, it's just like a child trying to put a square peg in a round hole. No matter how strong his will, or how hard he works, or how good his intention, he will never be successful in accomplishing this task. It certainly will never happen. Having money worries is another example of how this same principle functions. The more we worry about where enough money will come from to pay our bills or buy what we need or want, the tighter our grip becomes on that energy. We could safely say the more we squeeze, the tighter it gets. So when we continually worry, we squeeze the money energy so tightly that it literally dies, and we choke it to death. Let go of the choking, the forcing, the pushing, and the worry. Do your best to establish the faith that when you are doing your part, you know the necessary finances will always be available to you. Worry is negative and faith is positive. Faith and worry cannot occupy the same place at the same time. So which one would you rather have working in your life for you, the negative or the positive? You can't afford the luxury of a negative thought. Let go of the have to, and allow the natural flow of things to occur. Then life flows much easier and is more enjoyable. I'm not suggesting that you do away with goals or other plans for your life. I'm suggesting that you be flexible. That if situations or opportunities seem to take you in a different direction than planned, you will be more willing to flow with it. You might find it much more exciting than the original plan. Keep in mind that everything happens to us for our own good, for a reason, for our experience and growth. When we heighten our awareness to the point of recognizing that the pain, the challenges, and the changing of plans could be an indication of another opportunity to grow, really stop and look at it. Then life can become a game, a party, and it will be a lot more fun. Heighten your awareness and pay attention. Or as Dr. Borisenko suggests, be mindful of every aspect of your life. Arthur Ellen J. Langer suggests in her book Mindfulness that we are like programmed automatons when we are mindless, treating information in a rigid and single-minded way, as though the information were true regardless of the circumstances, whereas we are open to surprise when we're mindful-oriented in the present moment, being sensitive to context, and above all, we are liberated from the tyranny of old mindsets. Wake up. Open your consciousness. Be enthused about becoming more aware of what you're feeling, of what you're thinking, of every word you speak, and of how you act or react in everything you do. Pay attention. Awareness causes results. When you become more aware of the challenges as they occur and see them for the opportunities they are, opportunities for growth, then give thanks for what you're experiencing. Miracles happen when you express gratitude to God. Praise Him and give thanks in all things. Joy is preceded by gratitude. And doesn't it say in the scriptures, man is that he might have joy? You are now at the beginning of the return road back to the place of comfort and peace, and to the memory of your perfection.